when a guy does that and he raises his look at me, I pray 5 times a day and I fast and I, do all these things, and he wants to rub it in that he's a good Muslim. um like, my best advice to test that, I guess, not to like test it because you're just gonna assume he's a lying person or something, but to just go out with him with your mahram and see if he's gonna stop your little dates to pray dhuhr or asr or maghrib, where whenever you guys go out. See if he's gonna, if there's some discussions that you're gonna talk um about Islam, like when you're talking about children, see if he throws in a hadith there. And I know there's always going to be like, oh, what if he's putting on his best two shoes in front of you just to like woo you, or put you around his finger or something like that. um a guy could, I mean, a person, whether it's a female or a male, can only lie for so long. I mean, unless they're a very, very like hardcore narcissist, sometime they're gonna get tired. If you wake up on Fajr at like 4 a.m. and you text them and you're like, good morning, and they never reply to you because they never woke up for Fajr, there you go. They're not prioritizing their prayer, they're just showing off. Because Islam is not a lot of work, but when someone prays versus when they don't pray, you can tell the difference. You can see the difference, and you can just you get that vibe from them, like their priorities. They can talk a lot. Like, people love to talk. But when it comes to actions, you can really tell, will they hold the door open for not just you, but for an elderly maybe walking behind you? Or, like I said, are they're gonna stop the date and be like, oh, it's asr time, let's go pray, or can we, um it's just simple things like that, and it's very small and subtle. And obviously in the beginning, maybe if you're super excited and you're going out with them, you're not gonna, maybe it'll slip your mind. But especially if they remind you and they're like, oh, it's asr time, let's pray. Like, so yes, hypocrites can get away with a lot of things, and I agree with Aziza. Like, there are a lot of Muslims I have met who are really good at lying and who are really, really big hypocrites, because they'll say they pray 5 times a day and do all these good things, and oh yeah, I go to the masjid for every prayer, even though it's really difficult in a Western country because you have one masjid per city, at least where I am. So you can tell when guys are all talk. I don't have experience with women because I'm not talking to women when it comes to dating, but you can tell when guys, talk a little too much.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty much what everything you
So
guys saying is that it's the just because you go to church doesn't necessarily mean you're a good person.
yeah,
Right?
good
Mhm.
It's the same.
person.
Fazia, go ahead. Yeah,
Oh
you want to
yeah,
add something?
right. So to add to what Aziza was saying, and also to comment on what Dalia is talking about. For me, I don't live in a Western culture. I live in Nigeria. I live right now. I'm in the city, but my family, most of the people I know are back home in my hometown. Our culture is pretty much Islam, most of it. So our lives revolve around Islam. So basically, every young man from my place is their activities and routines are built around the prayer times and fasting, and every other person's life is built around that. You get me? Like the women prepare in time, your hairstyles are in a way that you can easily pray. The men, their outfits, they're always ready. It's not even like, oh, do you pray? You don't even need to ask. Like, that's their culture. They could be doing the worst thing, but be rest assured, when it's time for prayers, they're going to do their prayers. So a lot of the times you don't even need to ask, oh, do you pray? Do you do this? When it comes to that, you can be rest assured that the people from that community, because there's nothing else to do, right? We basically just living to practice the religion. Work, school is just by the way most of the time. But I would also like to add that I think, in my opinion, that especially in a culture like that, dating is really important. Maybe not the Western kind of dating. Getting to know someone is quite important because there's more or less situations of families packaging their badly behaved son, their a son that they would like to change, hoping that any woman that gets in his life is going to make him settle down and behave properly, and that is where their no dating time intention comes from. It's not about it's not about what the religion permits or does not permit. It's about they don't want to take the time for you to find out more about this son or that uncle or whoever it is they're trying to introduced to you. It's like there's no time for that. It's a waste of time. Just when you get married, you can get to know each other, and then you find out that sometimes your parents might know these things, and they feel like because they might be a little bit old school, and our parents, a lot of things that they didn't care about. We, the young generations, things that we can't just overlook, right? The way someone talks to you, the way they treat you, the way they treat kids, how caring or observing or whatever are they, to how much do they care about your career? Because my mom doesn't have a career; she's a stay-at-home mom, so she doesn't even care about that. But I do. So times have changed. So your parents might not even be able to notice these things about him. But if you were to get to know this man, you'd be the one to pick out the things that you want for yourself and the things that are important to you, because at the end of the day, no matter how committed you are to that marriage, you can't function if you want to have a career and you have a husband that doesn't support you, or a husband that all he wants to do is leave you with the kids, leave you with all of the responsibility, family, extended family responsibility, and just go have a good time by himself. Yeah. So yeah, what I'm saying is the religious aspects, the young men and whatever, they're quite all right with that. But when it comes to personal, interpersonal relationships and how they actually treat you as a woman or their wives, that becomes an issue, because sometimes their parents and or your parents might not see these things as an issue, but you as a young person, when you take time to get to know them, to see the way they treat other people and all of that, then you might be able to decide for yourself if this man is for me or not. So in this case, right, unfortunately, I'm not I can't preach this or I can't say this to like my family or my parents, like, listen, I would personally need to get to know someone before, but it's like no, the moment he's religious, he looks good, the background is all right, you don't have any problem. But a lot of people are Muslims, they are good Muslims, but doesn't necessarily make them good people, no matter how religious or how many nafila is the voluntary prayers, how many prayers they do in a day or whatever. So yeah, getting to know someone sometimes goes beyond if they do pray or they do fast or not. For me, in my experience, though.
Yes, thank you.
Culturally, sorry,
Oh,
my
yes.
bad, Will. Culturally, I know that Islam is taught as like memorization. Like memorize this, memorize that, and like, kind of fear is a bit instilled in us as children. Don't do this, don't do that, that's haram, that's halal, right? So when it comes to hypocrites, I'm assuming the reason they practice, but then they're bad people is because they don't really understand. If you actually understand the teachings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and you understand the Quran and who our God is and how merciful he is and how like giving and everything, um you want to be a better person because you know that this world is not worth it and you're aiming for heaven. Hopefully everyone is, but you're aiming for the hereafter, you're aiming to be with your loved ones in the hereafter. So you're not going to want to be like a bad person, whether that's a liar, a cheat, or whatever. So if you really understand and you read the prophet's stories and everything, I think you're bound to have some empathy and be a good person. But I agree with Fauzia, like you need to get to know someone when it comes to like, yes, religion is a huge priority, but their personality too, because like they could also have a good personality, but maybe they're like an extremely extroverted person and you're not, and that makes you kind of uncomfortable. So their personality matters, and I have like a rule, just some rule that I made or whatever. My preference is that if I meet someone that, our priorities align and everything, we go on a couple of like dates with a mahram and everything, if we were to get engaged, 2 years minimum 2 years to get to know each other, just be engaged. So this would allow us to go out together without a mahram. So we'd go on these fun dates, carnivals or whatever, movies and all that, and we'd get to know each other. We'd see if our personalities align and if we're compatible long term when we establish our priorities and everything that comes before. But you need to get to know each other. You can't get to know each other after marriage, because then it's not too late, because divorce is not haram, of course. It's not haram culturally. They're like, "Ooh, divorce." Like culturally, unfortunately, they don't think divorce is okay. But inshallah, like this generation establishes that divorce is okay. It's not the end of the world. Like if you guys are not good together, don't make the rest of your lives miserable together and just go separate ways. So yeah, like have a long engagement. And guys who you get to know and they're suddenly like, let's get engaged in a month and let's get married after 3 months because we're so in love with each other and we're great together. That's a huge red flag for me. That's scary. It's like, why are you trying to rush into this? Like, what do you not want me to find out about you down the road? So definitely long engagement, and then make a clear decision, take in all the factors for sure.